The shrill ring of Elaine Mitchell's doorbell at 7:15 a.m. on a Saturday was like a gunshot in a library. Through the peephole, she could make out the unmistakable blue uniform of a police officer. Her stomach dropped. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm Officer Reynolds. We received another call about a code violation on your property." Elaine closed her eyes, counted to 3, and opened the door with a practiced smile. "Let me guess. Patricia Winters called you again?" The officer's uncomfortable shift told her everything. "Ma'am, we're required to respond to all calls. The complainant mentioned your trash bins being visible from the street." Behind the officer stood Patricia Winters herself, arms crossed over her immaculate beige cardigan, a smile of vindication spreading across her face. Her perfectly highlighted blonde bob didn't move an inch in the morning breeze. "Officer, as I've explained 3 times now, I don't belong to Willow Creek Estates HOA." Elaine gestured to her modest ranch-style home. "My property is technically on Maple Drive, not Willow Creek Lane. I'm not subject to their rules." Patricia stepped forward. "That's simply not true. Your trash cans are an eyesore to everyone driving into our community. The covenants clearly state." "The covenants that I never signed," Elaine interrupted, fighting to keep her voice level. "Officer Reynolds, I have documentation proving this. May I get it for you?" As Elaine retrieved the property survey from her hallway drawer, she caught a glimpse of her reflection, dark circles under her eyes from working late shifts at the hospital. Being a single nurse with 2 teenagers left little time for neighborhood drama. When she returned, Patricia was showing the officer photos on her phone. "Look at this hideous basketball hoop. And these unregulated solar lights. They're not the approved model." Officer Reynolds accepted Elaine's paperwork with an apologetic glance. He studied it carefully. "Ms. Winters, this document confirms Ms. Mitchell's property falls outside the HOA boundaries by approximately 12 feet. Patricia's face flushed crimson. "That's impossible. I'm the HOA president. I know every inch of this neighborhood." "It's been this way since before you moved here," Elaine explained patiently. "My grandfather built this house in 1972, long before Willow Creek Estates existed." The officer handed the papers back to Elaine. "Ma'am, I apologize for the disturbance. Ms. Winters, please refrain from making calls about properties outside your jurisdiction." Patricia's eyes narrowed to slits. "This isn't over, Elaine. That eyesore you call a home is bringing down all our property values." After they left, Elaine leaned against her closed door, exhaustion washing over her. This was the 4th police visit in 2 months. First, it was her wind chimes making excessive noise. Then her son's car parked improperly in her own driveway. Last week, it was the unauthorized bird feeder. Her phone buzzed with a text from her neighbor, Marcus. "Saw the police again. You okay?" Elaine sighed. She needed allies in this growing war with Patricia Winters, and she had a feeling things were about to get much worse. Monday morning found Elaine sipping coffee on her front porch, a rare moment of peace before her noon shift at the hospital. The early October air carried the first hints of autumn, rustling through her unregulated maple tree, another violation according to Patricia. Her phone chimed with an email notification. Subject line: Emergency HOA meeting, boundary dispute. Sender: Patricia Winters. "Unbelievable," Elaine muttered, nearly spilling her coffee. The email had been sent to the entire Willow Creek Estates listserv, with Elaine's email mysteriously added. Patricia was calling for an emergency vote to resolve ongoing disputes with non-compliant adjacent properties. Marcus, her next-door neighbor and the only Willow Creek resident who regularly spoke to her, texted moments later. "Have you seen this? She's trying to retroactively annex your property." Before Elaine could respond, a sleek black SUV pulled into her driveway. A man in an expensive suit emerged carrying a leather portfolio. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm Richard Hartwell, attorney for the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Do you have a moment to discuss an urgent matter?" Elaine glanced at her watch. "I have exactly 15 minutes before I need to get ready for work." "Perfect." He sat uninvited on her porch swing. "The board has authorized me to offer you a solution to our ongoing issues." He slid a document across her small wicker table. "This is a voluntary annexation agreement. By signing, you'd officially become part of Willow Creek Estates." Elaine skimmed the dense legal text. "And why would I want to do that?" "The benefits are substantial. Access to the community pool, landscaping services." His voice trailed off as he noticed her expression. "Plus, it would resolve all current and future compliance disputes." "You mean I'd have to repaint my house in an approved color, remove my son's basketball hoop, and get permission to plant flowers in my own garden?" Elaine handed the document back. "No, thank you." Hartwell's polite veneer cracked slightly. "Ms. Mitchell, I should mention that the board is prepared to pursue other avenues if necessary. There's some question about the historical accuracy of your property survey." "Are you threatening me?" Elaine stood suddenly furious. My grandfather's property lines have been established for 50 years. Simply stating facts. He placed a business card on the table. The meeting is Wednesday at 7 p.m. I suggest you attend. After he left, Elaine called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Instead, she drove to the county records office. The clerk, a sympathetic woman named Doris, helped her locate the original property maps. Everything seems in order, Doris said, comparing documents. Your boundaries are clearly established. But she hesitated. There's a recent inquiry flag on your file. Someone requested all historical surveys of your area last week. Driving home, Elaine noticed Patricia photographing her mailbox from the street. When spotted, Patricia simply waved with exaggerated friendliness. That evening, Elaine's teenagers, Alex and Maya, noticed their mother spreading old photographs across the dining table. "Mom, what are you doing?" Maya asked, eyeing the faded pictures of their grandfather standing proudly in front of their house. "Finding ammunition," Elaine replied, studying a yellow document. Patricia Winters doesn't know who she's messing with. As she organized decades of property records, a notification popped up on her phone. A neighborhood watch alert about suspicious activity at her address. The attached photo showed Elaine earlier that day entering her own home with an armful of county documents. Wednesday evening arrived with an unexpected thunderstorm, matching Elaine's mood perfectly as she parked her weathered Honda Civic among the luxury vehicles outside the Willow Creek Community Center. She spent her day off building her case, armed with a folder of documents and a determination that surprised even herself. Inside, about 30 residents sat in neat rows facing a podium, where Patricia stood adjusting a microphone, her expression soaring when she spotted Elaine slipping into a back row seat. "Let's begin," Patricia announced, bringing the room to attention. "We have several matters to discuss, but first," her gaze fixed directly on Elaine, "we have a non-resident observer joining us tonight." Every head turned. Elaine felt her cheeks flush but maintained eye contact with Patricia. For those unaware, Ms. Mitchell owns the distinctive ranch house at the entrance to our community. Though technically not part of our HOA, her property impacts all of our home values. Our attorney has prepared a presentation on proposed boundary adjustments. Richard Hartwell approached the podium with a PowerPoint clicker. The screen displayed a satellite view of the neighborhood with property lines superimposed. "As you can see," he began, "there's an historical inconsistency in the southeast corner." Elaine recognized her own property highlighted in red. When Willow Creek was developed in 1985, this parcel should have been incorporated, but was overlooked due to a surveying error. We propose a community vote to correct this oversight. A murmur spread through the room. Marcus, sitting 3 rows ahead, turned to give Elaine a concerned glance. "Excuse me," Elaine stood, her nurse's training steadying her voice. "May I address this before a vote?" Patricia's smile tightened. "This is a residents-only meeting." "About my property," Elaine countered. "I believe that entitles me to speak." An elderly gentleman in the front row nodded. "Let her talk, Patricia. It's only fair." Patricia reluctantly gestured Elaine forward. As Elaine made her way to the front, she noticed several residents watching her with curious rather than hostile expressions. "Thank you," Elaine said, placing her documents on the podium. "I'm a nurse at Memorial Hospital. I've lived in my grandfather's house for 12 years. He built it in 1972, 13 years before Willow Creek existed." She held up a faded photograph. "This is my grandfather with the original property survey, and this," she produced a yellow newspaper clipping, "is an article from 1985 when your developer tried to purchase his land. He refused." Elaine passed the documents to the front row. "When Willow Creek was built, the developers legally had to exclude my grandfather's property. It wasn't an oversight. It was his choice." She took a breath. "I understand aesthetics matter to your community, but I maintain my property responsibly, just with different priorities. I work long shifts caring for people, including some of your relatives. My teenagers need a home, not a showpiece." The room fell silent. Patricia stepped forward, attempting to reclaim control. "While this history lesson is fascinating, the fact remains that your non-conforming property affects all our home values." A woman in designer activewear raised her hand. "Actually, Patricia, I pulled up recent sales data. Properties near Ms. Mitchell's haven't shown any value decrease." "That's beside the point," Patricia snapped. "Our covenants exist for a reason." "Covenants that don't apply to my property," Elaine interjected, "and shouldn't. My grandfather specifically chose independence from HOA restrictions." Richard Hartwell cleared his throat. "There may be legal precedent for incorporation if the property is surrounded by the HOA." "It isn't surrounded," Marcus called out, standing. "My property borders hers on one side and Maple Drive borders the other. I've reviewed the documents. Her property is legally distinct." Patricia's face reddened. "Marcus, you've never cared about maintaining standards. Your holiday decorations last year were completely outside guidelines. And people love them," he shot back. Maybe that's the real issue here. The HOA meeting dissolved into factions, with several residents openly questioning Patricia's tactics for the first time. Elaine caught snippets of conversations as people huddled in groups. Always been too strict. Power trip. Never consulted us about legal fees. Patricia rapped her gavel repeatedly, desperate to regain control. We will table this discussion and move to a vote at next month's meeting after proper review of all documentation. As the meeting reluctantly adjourned, several residents approached Elaine, introducing themselves with apologetic smiles. A retired couple who lived across from Marcus expressed embarrassment about the situation. "We had no idea Patricia was calling police on you," and the husband confessed. "That's completely inappropriate." Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the parking lot glistening under streetlights. Elaine was unlocking her car when Patricia's voice cut through the night air. "Quite the performance in there. Turning my own community against me." Patricia's tone was conversational, while her eyes were hard. "Enjoy your victory lap, but this isn't over." Elaine sighed. "Patricia, this doesn't have to be a war. I maintain my property. I'm a good neighbor. Why is my independence so threatening to you?" "Because order matters," Patricia hissed, stepping closer. "One exception becomes two, then 10, then chaos. I've worked too hard building this community to let it unravel because you want to fly your tacky garden flags and paint your mailbox whatever color strikes your fancy." "Those are my rights on my property," Elaine replied evenly. "Rights," Patricia scoffed. "What about my right to a neighborhood that maintains its prestige? My husband and I paid a premium for that guarantee." Before Elaine could respond, Marcus approached. "Everything okay here?" Patricia's demeanor instantly shifted, her smile reappearing. "Just clarifying some misunderstandings. Good night, both of you." She walked away, phone already pressed to her ear. The next morning, Elaine's early alarm for her hospital shift was preceded by an even earlier knock on her door. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a city uniform. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm from the Code Enforcement Office. We've received multiple complaints about potential violations at this address." Elaine stepped outside, clutching her coffee mug. "What violations?" "Let's see." He consulted his tablet. "Improper fence height, unapproved satellite dish placement, possible encroachment of your driveway onto HOA property," and he looked up operating a business from a residential zone. "A business? That's absurd. Complaint states you're running an unlicensed childcare facility." "I have 2 teenagers who occasionally have friends over," Elaine explained, incredulous. "I'm a nurse, not a daycare provider." The inspector nodded sympathetically. "I'm required to investigate all complaints. Mind if I measure your fence?" For the next hour, as the sun climbed higher, the inspector methodically checked each allegation. To Elaine's relief, he found nothing actionable. "Your fence is exactly at permitted height, and your satellite dish complies with FCC regulations," he confirmed, making notes. "And your driveway is well within your property line." As he prepared to leave, Elaine couldn't resist asking, "These complaints, they all came from the same person, didn't they?" "Can't disclose that," he replied, but his expression told her everything. "But I can say we've received 8 separate complaints about this address in the past week, all filed online within hours of each other." Elaine watched him drive away and then noticed Patricia power walking past her house, designer activewear gleaming in the morning sun. Patricia slowed just enough to snap a photo of Elaine's teenager's car in the driveway before continuing her route. Elaine's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Neighborhood social media is blowing up. Patricia's claiming victory because the city is investigating multiple violations at your house. What happened?" By Friday afternoon, Elaine's patience was hanging by a thread. During her hospital lunch break, she scrolled through the neighborhood social media group that someone had anonymously added her to. Patricia had transformed into a one-woman propaganda machine, posting selective photos of Elaine's property with captions like, "Would you want this next to your $750,000 investment?" An update. City taking action on multiple violations. Elaine had restrained herself from responding, but others hadn't. Marcus had posted the inspector's official report showing no violations. Several residents questioned why HOA funds were being used for legal action without a membership vote. The online civil war was escalating by the hour. Her phone rang, her son Alex. "Mom, there's a water department guy here saying our sprinkler system is illegally tapped into the HOA's water line." Elaine nearly choked on her sandwich. "We don't even have a sprinkler system." "That's what I told him. He's still walking around the yard with some kind of detector." "I'll be home in 20 minutes. Don't let him do anything without me there." Elaine's supervisor frowned when she requested to leave early, but approved it after seeing her expression. "Everything okay, Mitchell? You've never asked for time off like this." "Neighborhood dispute," Elaine explained tersely, already grabbing her purse. When she arrived home, the water department technician was completing his inspection. He looked bewildered. Ma'am, there's absolutely no sprinkler system on this property, and your water line is completely separate from Willow Creek's supply. Someone gave us incorrect information. Let me guess, Elaine said, Patricia Winters. The technician's eyes widened slightly. I can't confirm who made the report, but this is the third call to this street this week with similar results. After he left, Elaine found Alex and his friend Jaden playing video games in the living room. Did anything else happen while I was gone? Some lady was taking pictures from across the street, Jaden offered. When I waved at her, she practically ran away. Mom, is this about that HOA lady again? Alex asked. My history teacher, Mr. Patel, says she's doing the same thing to him, and he lives like 5 blocks from here. This was news to Elaine. Mr. Patel from Memorial High? What's Patricia doing to him? Reporting his cultural decorations during Diwali last year. He had to go to court about it. Elaine's mind raced. Jaden, can you give us a minute? After the friend stepped outside, she turned to her son. What else did Mr. Patel say about this? Just that he won his case because the HOA was selectively enforcing rules against him, but not against people with Christmas decorations. He said it was discrimination. The germ of an idea formed in Elaine's mind. Text Maya to come straight home after dance practice. I need to talk to both of you. That evening, Elaine sat her teenagers down at the kitchen table. I need your help with something. Patricia Winters is escalating, and it's time we fight back legally and ethically. Maya raised an eyebrow. You're actually letting us get involved? This must be serious. It is. She's costing us money, time, and peace. Here's what we're going to do. For the next hour, they developed a plan. Alex, a skilled photographer, would document every single HOA violation within Willow Creek Estates. The identical violations Patricia overlooked for her friends but reported for others. Maya, who ran the school newspaper, would research Pat Rish's history in other communities. This feels like a reality show. Alex grinned, suddenly enthusiastic. Operation Take Down Karen. It's not about taking her down, Elaine corrected. It's about stopping the harassment and exposing the hypocrisy. As they finalized details, their doorbell rang. Through the window, Elaine spotted Marcus with another man she recognized from the HOA meeting. Sorry to bother you, Marcus said when she opened the door. This is Greg Thompson, our HOA treasurer. He has some information you should hear. Greg looked nervously over his shoulder. Patricia doesn't know I'm here. I've been reviewing our financial records, and you need to see this. He handed Elaine a folder. She's been using HOA funds to pay for these legal consultations about your property without board approval. And there's more. Elaine spread the financial documents across her kitchen table while Marcus and Greg explained the implications. Patricia had created a community improvement budget line that she controlled without oversight, funneling nearly $15,000 of HOA funds into her crusade against Elaine and several other homeowners who had crossed her. This is a textbook case of fiduciary mismanagement, Greg explained, pointing to several highlighted entries. She's been charging consulting fees to the attorney for months, but the HOA board never authorized ongoing legal services. Marcus leaned forward. Greg's calling for an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Several members are already on board to demand Patricia's resignation. I've documented everything, Greg added. My wife's a CPA. She says this could potentially be criminal misuse of funds. After they left, Elaine barely slept, her mind churning the possibilities. By morning, she had formulated a clear strategy. She contacted Mr. Patel, who eagerly agreed to connect her with 4 other homeowners who had experienced similar harassment from Patricia. Together, they created a timeline of escalating actions against properties Patricia deemed undesirable. Saturday morning, Elaine enlisted Maya to help reorganize her grandfather's documents while Alex drove around photographing selective enforcement issues. By afternoon, they had compiled compelling evidence of Patricia's pattern of discrimination and harassment. Maya discovered something particularly interesting in her online research. Mom, look at this, she called from the computer. Patricia lived in Oakwood Estates before moving here. There are multiple news articles about her. She was removed as HOA president there after several homeowners filed a class action lawsuit. Print everything, Elaine instructed, a sense of vindication washing over her. The doorbell rang just as they were organizing their findings. Elaine opened it to find Patricia herself on the doorstep, wearing a disarming smile that didn't reach her eyes. Elaine, I think we got off on the wrong foot, Patricia began, her voice honey-sweet. May I come in? I'd like to discuss a compromise. Against her better judgment, Elaine allowed Patricia inside, motioning for Maya to quietly gather their research materials from the dining table. Patricia surveyed the modest home with barely concealed disdain. I've been reflecting on our situation. Perhaps I've been too zealous in my approach. That's one word for it, Elaine replied cautiously. Patricia's smile tightened. I'm prepared to offer you a deal. The HOA will pay to have your property renovated to our standards. New exterior paint, landscaping, removal of that basketball hoop, proper fencing. In exchange, you'll voluntarily join the HOA under a special exemption agreement. And if I decline, then things will become more difficult. Patricia's mask slipped slightly. I have connections at the city planning office. There's talk of rezoning this entire area for commercial development. Exceptions could be made for properties that meet certain standards. The implied threat hung in the air between them. Elaine felt a surge of anger rise in her chest, but maintained her composure. That sounds suspiciously like extortion, Patricia. Patricia laughed lightly. Not at all. I'm offering you an opportunity. Your property value would increase significantly under HOA protection. Elaine considered her next words carefully. Before I respond, I'd like to show you something. She retrieved a folder from her kitchen counter. These are photographs of 7 different selective enforcement instances in Willow Creek Estates. Here's board member Johnson's oversized boat in his driveway, a clear violation of Section 8.3 of your bylaws. And here's your friend Heather's unapproved fence paint color. Patricia's smile disappeared. You can spy on residents? Documenting public-facing property features, Elaine corrected. The same thing you've been doing to me. I also have financial records showing HOA funds misappropriated for personal vendettas, and news articles about the lawsuit that removed you from Oakwood Estates Board 3 years ago. Patricia's face drained of color. You have no right. I have every right to defend myself against harassment, Elaine interrupted firmly. Tomorrow's emergency board meeting should be interesting. Patricia's composure cracked completely. You think you've won something here. You have no idea who you're dealing with. She snatched her purse from the coffee table. I built Willow Creek into what it is today. Those ingrates on the board would be nothing without me. Maybe they'd just be homeowners enjoying their properties without constant scrutiny, Elaine suggested, maintaining her calm. Not everything needs to be controlled, Patricia. Chaos needs control, Patricia snapped, heading for the door. You'll regret this little power play. The door slammed behind her with enough force to rattle Elaine's family photos. Maya emerged from the hallway. Wow, Mom, that was like watching a courtroom drama. Elaine exhaled slowly, adrenaline still coursing through her system. Let's finish organizing these documents for tomorrow's meeting. Later that evening, Elaine's phone buzzed with texts from Marcus and Greg, confirming that the emergency board meeting was still scheduled for 10 a.m. Other board members had been briefed on the financial improprieties, and several homeowners planned to attend with their own complaints about Patricia's reign of selective enforcement. As she was preparing dinner, police lights flashed through her kitchen window. Elaine's heart sank as she recognized Officer Reynolds approaching her door. Ms. Mitchell, we received a disturbing report that you threatened Ms. Winters earlier today. He began, looking uncomfortable. She's filed for an emergency restraining order claiming she fears for her safety. That's completely false, Elaine replied, stunned. She was in my home less than 4 hours ago, threatening me with rezoning if I didn't comply with her demands. My daughter witnessed everything. Officer Reynolds glanced at his notepad. She claimed you've been stalking HOA members, taking photographs of their homes, and compiling personal information to use against them. I've documented public visible violations that Patricia ignores while targeting others for identical issues. That's called evidence, not stalking. The officer studied her face for a moment. Ms. Mitchell, this is the 5th call I've responded to involving you and Ms. Winters. In my experience, these neighbor disputes rarely involve actual criminal behavior. Then why are you here? Protocol. But, he lowered his voice, off the record, Ms. Winters has filed similar complaints against 3 other homeowners in the past month. None resulted in charges. Relief washed over Elaine. So what happens now? You'll be served with notice of the restraining order hearing. Until then, maintain distance from Ms. Winters and document everything. He handed her his card. My direct line, if anything escalates, call me personally. After he left, Elaine called Marcus to update him. Patricia's trying to prevent me from attending tomorrow's meeting, she explained. She filed for a restraining order. Unbelievable, Marcus muttered, but not surprising. The board's already discussing postponing until this is resolved. No, Elaine insisted. That's exactly what she wants. I'll prepare my statement and documentation tonight. You can present it without me. They worked out details, and by midnight, Elaine had assembled a comprehensive package for each board member, detailing Patricia's pattern of harassment, selective enforcement, and financial misconduct. Sunday morning arrived with an unexpected knock at 7 a.m. Elaine opened the door to find half the HOA board standing on her porch, including Greg and an elderly woman she recognized as the vice president. We're holding the emergency meeting here, the vice president announced. If you can't come to the mountain. Elaine blinked in surprise. Is that allowed? Greg grinned. We checked the bylaws. Meetings can be held at any location with majority board approval. We're the majority. Patricia's beside herself, Marcus added, joining them. She showed up at the community center and found it locked with a note directing everyone here. She can't enter your property without violating her own restraining order request. As Elaine welcomed them inside, she spotted Patricia across the street, standing beside her SUV, phone pressed to her ear, face contorted with fury as she watched her authority slip away with each board member who entered Elaine's home.